If I was born in the Caribbean as a white person, I certainly wouldn't call myself
Well, I'm afraid
Caribbean.
Have you ever been to the Caribbean, Jean?
I haven't. No, I haven't had the fortune.
Well, then you probably don't realise that in countries like Barbados, there are significant white Caribbean populations who have been there for hundreds of years. And they are significantly more Caribbean than I am.
Well, all
Didn't know that, did you?
There are moments in media that don't just feel uncomfortable. They quietly expose something bigger beneath the surface. This is one of those moments. Before we jump in, tell me where you're tuning in from. And remember to like and subscribe. Your support helps the channel grow and keeps these stories coming. In this video, we're revisiting a radio call that, at the time, left a lot of people stunned. Not because it was loud or aggressive, but because of how calmly it drew a line. A caller on LBC decided to tell a black, British-born member of Parliament, David Lammy, exactly who she believed he was, and more importantly, who she believed he was not allowed to be. What's genuinely shocking now isn't what the caller said. It's how familiar it sounds. The kind of thinking that once lived in a radio phone-in has quietly migrated into mainstream political language. What was once a private prejudice has been repackaged, polished, and echoed by people with real power and real platforms. So in this video, we're going to walk through the key moments of that call. Watch this carefully, sit with it, and once we've gone through it together, I'll share my thoughts on why this moment wasn't just a shocking clip. It was a warning sign.
You keep saying that you are African Caribbean, which is fine, but how can you be African Caribbean and English? I couldn't be African. I'm English, but I certainly could not call myself African Caribbean.
You could be Irish, though. You could have Irish.
No, I'm not Irish.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not
you could
Scottish.
be. You could be.
No, I'm not, because I have looked my name right the way back to the Middle Ages, my maiden name, and I'm Anglo-Saxon.
Great.
But you will never be English. You are African Caribbean.
But why will I never be English?
Because you're African Caribbean.
Look,
I can't say to you.
At what point? What about my kids? What are my kids? What are my kids?
I can't say I'm African Caribbean.
What? Yeah, but the truth is, Jean, just a little bit of history on this. Britain, 400 years ago, started going out into the world. It colonised and conquered a lot of the world. A lot of the world has ended up coming back to the mother country. My parents were part of that generation who came from the Caribbean. When I took a DNA test, I actually had Scottish in me, probably because as a result of that, someone somewhere, frankly, got their leg over with one of my ancestors, and I've got Scottish blood running through me. I said that gently, but it could have been horrendous. Let's be clear about that. And here I am, having grown up in this country, have been born of this country. And actually, the truth is, it's a myth that there's one English ethnicity. There's not, because England has always been a country in which Huguenots, Danes, all sorts of people have passed through. So when you say you are English, I'm not saying that doesn't mean something to you and matter hugely.
It does.
Because there are probably, as you put it, years and years, hundreds of years of experience of that. But it is to say that for me, the fact that I was born here and the fact that my sensibilities are English mean that I want to claim that heritage as well. Now, I'm very comfortable saying I'm British, Black British. Of course I am. And I'm very, very proud. No one could say I wasn't, because I talk about it all the time, about my Caribbean roots. And I know the Caribbean very well. But it's to say that I'm English. Sorry? What?
You're British, but you're not English.
Well, that's the point I think you're making, and I'm disagreeing with that. Tell me, what do you think? What do you think?
If I was born in the Caribbean as a white person, I certainly wouldn't call myself
well, I'm afraid
Caribbean.
Have you ever been to the Caribbean, Jean?
I haven't. No, I haven't had the fortune.
Well, then you probably don't realise that in countries like Barbados, there are significant white Caribbean populations who have been there for hundreds of years, and they are significantly more Caribbean than I am.
Well, all I can say is the whole world is polluting everybody the way it's going.
What's that phrase, polluting?
It is.
Why is it polluting, Jean?
Because you are what you are. You are where you are born.
But hang on, Jean.
Your inheritance. It's your inheritance.
Jean, I can tell that you are more senior than I am in age. So I want to be polite.
No, don't do that.
In this conversation. Well, that's how I was brought up, that you're polite to your seniors, Jean. But what I'm saying is the word pollution Where's that word pollution come from? It's a very negative way.
Well, I'm sorry for that,
but it is negative. It's a negative way to describe the fact that people meet one another, they fall in love, they have kids, they move borders, sometimes through war, sometimes through economic reasons, and they become what they become when they are of that country. And just as you can be in America, and you can be African American, or you can be Italian American, or you can be Irish American. How is it that here in England you can only claim that Englishness effectively, Gene, if you are white?
You will never be English. There it is, a single sentence that lands with a thud. 4 years ago, many people heard that line and shrugged it off, an opinion from someone you could comfortably file away as out of touch, from a generation that was slowly fading from public life. But that interpretation didn't age well, because she wasn't a leftover from the past. She was a preview of what was coming next. When you trace the path from that statement to today's political discourse, it's alarmingly short. We now hear senior politicians openly lamenting the absence of white faces in parts of cities like Birmingham. We hear claims that multiculturalism has failed, that integration is broken, that the nation's character is under threat. And suddenly, that radio call doesn't sound extreme anymore. It sounds familiar. David Lammy wasn't just debating a woman named Jean. Without realizing it, he was confronting the future language of the hard and far right. And the moment her argument fully unravels is when she reaches for one word, polluting. That's where everything changed. Because that word isn't about policy, it's about purity, it's about contamination. It reveals a fear that the nation has a fixed, correct identity, and that certain people, by their very presence, dilute it. Today's politicians rarely say it that bluntly. They don't need to. They talk about social cohesion, about failed integration, about uncontrolled migration. But the fear underneath is identical. Jean said the quiet part out loud. Modern politics just codes it better. Lammy's final point is the one they still can't answer. He asks why layered identities are completely normal elsewhere. Why being both British and something else is framed as a contradiction, even a threat. There's a reason that question never gets a real response. Because the argument was never about logic. It was always about exclusion. About the unspoken belief that, for some people, Englishness can only ever look one way. That's what makes this clip so unsettling to watch now. Like it or not, the tone of the national conversation has hardened since then, and the warning signs were already there, broadcast live for anyone willing to hear them. I'm genuinely interested to know what you make of this. Share your thoughts in the comments.